Call this meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I give approval of the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Approval of the bills, purchase orders. Can I get a motion to approve? Huh? Can I get a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Is there any questions on the investments, community festival license, or the gambling resolution? Can I get a motion to approve all of it then?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Reports, Police Department monthly report.
Good evening. February 2019, in our traffic area, we had 33 citations, 97 verbal warnings, and 5 written warnings. In 2019, we had 318 calls or requests for service, and in 2018, we had 338, so we're down 20 calls for that month. We ended 2018 with 680 calls or requests for service, and this year in February, 725, so we're still up by 45 calls for the month. Nothing overly notable. Agency assists were down to 16, so we're about half on that range. Not really an explanation on that, but yeah. Shows that the month was a bit quiet. Maybe it was the weather, maybe it was something else, I'm not sure. Any questions?
Like to see the articles in the Beacon. Keep up the good work.
Okay. It was a good effort between our department with the eyes and ears and Offender Task Force and everybody else that helped out, so.
Yep.
Hopefully that's the end of it for a little while again, but never make promises.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chief, for all your effort.
You bet.
Community Develop Director. Hi, Lisa.
Good evening. Planning Commission met in this 2 days ago on Tuesday, and they reviewed the Melrose One-Stop Landscape Plan and also reviewed related to some loose ends regarding changes to the site plan and such. So that'll be on your agenda tonight for approval. Also, in February, they reviewed the non-conforming ordinance, making some changes to that so that it conforms better to state statutes. There's some changes that are proposed to the changeable copy sign ordinance that would allow electronic signs that are more graphic oriented. It would allow 2 wall signs, or freestanding sign would allow it as wall sign or freestanding sign. But if you have a changeable copy sign, only 1 sign can be changing every 6 seconds. Any second or additional sign, up to 2 per site, would be allowed to change every 5 minutes. So that's kind of the compromise the Planning Commission came up with on that. They also discussed outdoor seating to be allowed perhaps along Main Street on the right-of-way, and that'll be on your agenda for next month. On April 9th, there's going to be a joint meeting with MATA and the City Council to go over the Riverview redevelopment project, former craft lot. We've submitted a request for proposals due April 1st for any developers who are interested in submitting a proposal for development to that land, preferably as multifamily and mixed-use commercial. We also entertain just multifamily, although that would require an ordinance amendment, and is not generally the preferred option at this point. Building permits are just starting to pick up kind of this week. They've been a little bit slow thus far, as people are still, I think, digging out. And I have a few other things listed in the memo that we're just kind of finishing up on, but otherwise everything's going good. Any questions?
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. City Attorney report.
Good evening. Yeah, a few items in my written report. We've got 2 nuisance items coming up. Next step is a public hearing, and then there would be some resolutions that we'd be asking the council to approve. Outdoor seating, we've heard development director mention that it's being looked at by the planning, and that should be back here in front of you by the next meeting. One item that came up after my report came out, I got a call from the city clerk, kind of an unusual request. As it turned out, they were calling the wrong city. But a person was asking about what our rules were for Airbnbs. And my understanding of what an Airbnb is, it's basically people advertising on the internet that they've got rooms or a house available for short-term rentals. We were checking our ordinances to say, well, what do we say about that? And you know, if looking at the zoning ordinance, if it's a residential area, it would be allowed. Depending on the nature of it, I mean, we do allow people to have roomers, up to 2 roomers. So if they're living in the house and they want to take in 1 or 2 people, they could do it. If a person bought the house and was just going to rent it out, I mean, we have rent houses that are occupied by renters in town. We've got rules in place requiring them to be licensed so that we can make sure that the landlord is maintaining and keeping the property up to standards. But we don't really say anything about the length of the lease. Wouldn't make, if a person bought a house, got the rental license, they could rent it to the same person for a year. They could rent it to a new person every week if they wanted to. We don't have anything that says yay or nay. I don't know that this is the most pressing problem facing Melrose, but came up, we looked into it, and we said, well, maybe there's kind of a hole there. But we didn't really pursue it, figuring that maybe the first step is to just let you folks know and see if you feel like it's something that you would like to see pursued. If so, I guess we maybe, suggest that it's something to have really planning and zoning kick around a little bit and come back with a recommendation. If you don't think it's worth putting any time in, it's not a problem. Or figure it would be just another business coming to Melrose, and maybe the people staying for the week would spend money in Melrose. I don't see a need to do anything about it. That's fine too. Just more of an informational item and try to get a sense of if you think it's something worth looking into any further. Leave it be as it is.
Any questions? I'm good with it right now.
I think the answer is we're just fine the way we are. Thank you. That's all I've got in my report.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Airbnb, yeah. I think until it becomes a problem.
All right, public hearing to abate nuisance to the City of Melrose Code Section 93.21. Is that you, Scott? It is 6:08. We're open.
Yeah, we have 2 this evening. The first is located at 304 3rd Street Southeast. We've got pictures.
This one?
The one in the middle.
In this house, you'll see that there's a washing machine that's just been kind of left parked out in the yard. First picture was taken earlier in the year. The second picture, you'll see more snow piled up on it. Chief Mouse contacted the property owner and then sent a letter on January the 11th telling them that they needed to properly dispose of the washing machine, gave them 10 days. Chief Mouse then sent another letter on January 30th, telling them they had an additional 5 days. No action was taken. And confirmed with Chief Mouse, as of yesterday, last time he looked, it was still sitting. So it's been there for close to 3 months that we know of. So that's, and the second one is at 121 4th Street Southwest. Looks like some remodeling going on, and the debris is just piled up in front of the house. Same schedule. We've got Chief Mouse contacted the property owner, sent a letter on January 11th, giving him 10 days to clean up. No response. Second letter went out January 30th. Given an additional 5 days. Now Chief Mouse mentioned that now there has been some work done, but it has not been cleaned up entirely. My understanding is that the property owner is here. If he wants to have an opportunity to speak, that's part of the hearing, is if he wants to address the council, he certainly can. I guess before I continue.
Oh, yeah, just the fact that a lot of the items, I was gone for the last 2 weeks. That's why I was mailed to me, but a lot of the items were frozen down, number one. Number two, I used Old Lots metals to get rid of this stuff, hence the trailer. Old Lots has been closed on Saturday since the 1st of January, which is when I'm not working and get there. This Saturday, I saw on Facebook, was his first day back open. So it's coming Saturday morning. He's open from 8 to 12. And Chief, you could attest, I've been loading up that trailer. That's going away Saturday morning. So the only thing I have left out there right now is the windows are still frozen. I did move just tonight before I came here, so you know, the multicolored mattress is leaning against the trailer, so I can finish on now. So I'm hoping by tomorrow with warmer weather, the windows are going to be in the trailer, they'll get strapped down Saturday morning. It's 10 cents a pound out of Old Pots to get rid of that stuff, so I'm just taking him away and pay him to throw it in his dumpster. That's just what we're currently.
Yeah, so, you know, later on in the meeting, you've got 2 resolutions ordering abatement. Very similar to what we've seen in the past. If you approve the orders, we would send copies to the property owners, and they would be given 30 days to correct these issues before we would start any process to move it forward. Unless the council guy has any questions?
So we start the process. It takes, what'd you say, 30 days,
Yeah,
give or take?
Yeah, we would,
And the problem is resolved prior to the 30 days, then obviously it goes away.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, problem goes,
So-
you know, and when we send those out, we wait the 30 days, and Chief Mouse goes back out there to inspect them.
Yeah.
And if he tells me there's no problem, then we just close the file and it's done.
Right.
If
And there's no
it's-
fine, no penalty, no nothing with
Fine,
it, so.
no penalty, nothing. If on inspection after 30 days, it's still there, that's when we would file a petition with the court and asking that the court order,
Clean up.
essentially the court is ordering the person to comply with your order. And if they don't comply with the court's order, then we can go out and hook the stuff and dispose of it, and we assess the costs back to the property.
Okay.
Even then, last few times, when people say they've got a court hearing in St. Cloud County, the day before, they're out cleaning the stuff up rather than court in St. Cloud, so. Hate to see it take that long, nicer if they take care of it before it. Any other questions?
Well, one thing that I guess, I've had calls from your neighbors. And the neighbors are concerned because you lived on Riverside Avenue and they had issues there. Those neighbors are very proud of their area and they want to see it stay looking nice. You know, some of these people put a lot of money into their homes and they want to see a nice neighborhood, and I would really like to see that too, you know, because it is Craft Drive. A lot of people drive Craft Drive, and there's no reason for it. You know, OPATS is open Monday through Fridays too. I know when I have to do stuff, there's times I have to take off to work to get my stuff done. So I hope that works out for you, you know, that you can get it done, and hopefully we never have to see you again with it. But just know that your neighbors are very concerned. I've gotten a lot of phone, I'm not gonna say a lot, I've gotten a few phone calls. You know, the people have lived there for a long time, so. Is there any other questions? Anybody else in public have comments? We will be taking action on this in a little bit. 6:16. Close it now? Need a motion to do that?
We can, we have in the past.
You have? Okay, can I have a motion to close it now?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, first.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Action items. Preliminary final plat, Melrose one-stop request by Ron's Property. Lisa?
Before you tonight is the preliminary and the final plat of Melrose One Stop. They received a conditional use permit for a car wash about a year back, and there's just a couple elements that, as we've been going through and reviewing the final plat, that before the final plat gets approved, we would just like to make you aware of, and perhaps have you make a motion just affirming the Planning Commission's recommendations to that regard. So the first item was to affirm that the truck wash as a use is in harmony with the original car wash approval. We don't specifically call out car wash versus truck wash. We just call it a general car wash. And if it's your opinion that the truck wash is consistent with the car wash, then you would affirm that the decision of the Planning Commission that the car wash and truck washes, when they were originally approved by the Planning Commission, it was very vague. It was just sort of noted that a car wash was planned for this northwest area of their lot. And so we just want to make sure that everyone's clear that it's both a car wash and a second bay for a truck wash. They're planning it to be manual, so a truck would drive in there. You would put the credit card in, and then the water would start working, and you can wash your truck. And then when you're done, you tell it you're done, and you take your credit card out, and it gets billed, and you get a receipt. So it's probably not going to be super high use, just because it is kind of a manual wash, not done by a staff person, done by the truck operator. So I guess that's the first element. So, and staff does recommend that as part of the motion, that if the issue comes up due to either stacking, meaning that there isn't enough room for the vehicles to park on site and wait for the truck wash to be available or the car wash to be available, that if that's an issue, or if the chemicals in the water become an issue for the city's water system, that the city can give notice to the property owner and utilize the same process as outlined in the letter of understanding and preliminary plat resolution. And that if necessary, the conditional use permit could be revoked. The applicant is aware of this, and they were fine with those conditions in that language. So I guess that would be the first motion, if that's acceptable to the council.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Okay, can I get a motion for that first part of action?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then the second part is for the approval of letter of understanding.
The second part, actually, we're going to back up just a minute. The planning commission, when they approved the modifications to the landscape ordinance back last year, they added a provision called variation, allowing variation from the ordinance requirements. And the landscape section of the ordinance also includes the fence requirements. It includes the landscape buffer requirements. And so what that variation does, it allows applicant to say, hey, planning commission, can I not meet the full requirements of the landscape plan? I believe the requirements are being alternatively met, or they're not going to be an issue for this reason. And in this case, the applicant has requested that the fence that would be typically required between residential and commercial along the south side by the cemetery, he feels that that's not necessary. The neighbors don't seem to be complaining about that. And so that's one area. And then also the fence along the Lovelace property. It's kind of gone back and forth as to whether there should be a fence there or not. And at this point, the applicant and Mr. Lovelace have come to an agreement that the applicant will provide a fence on the Lovelace property, which will probably provide a better buffer than separated on his property. And staff recommends that that seems consistent with the overall intent of the ordinance, but also recommends that the letter of understanding still maintain the language that if it becomes an issue in the future, there's a process in place to determine whether or not fencing should be relooked at. So that's the second affirmation, if that's acceptable to the council. It doesn't typically need to go to the council, but because you're hearing this item anyway, it's not a bad idea, just to make sure everyone's on board.
Okay, can I get a motion for the second part here?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then the other one is about the 8-foot setbacks abutting.
And the final portion is basically allowing, if a fence needs to go in the future, to allow it to be at the 8-foot setback line instead of the 15-foot setback line, just so it's clear we don't have to go through the process again if there does need to be a fence. So, and also the plans that are in the packet need to be revised to show that 8-foot landscape buffer regardless of whether a fence goes in. So just affirming that change.
Okay,
Is that 8 feet off of Jesse's property then, going into his
It
land?
actually would be 8 feet off of the right-of-way, because there's an unnamed right-of-way that goes to the
Okay.
cemetery.
Okay,
And so it'd be Jesse's property, the unnamed right-of-way, and then 8 feet of grass, and then his driveway area.
okay.
okay. Okay, are you good with that? And Dave was good with that?
Dave was good with that.
Okay.
So,
For Part 3, can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
all right, now that we've got the minor things done, the next item is the resolution number 2019-20, resolution approving case number preliminary plat 1-2019-203 and final plat 1-2019-2004 preliminary and final plat requested by Ron Properties.
Okay,
There's conditions included in the resolution.
yep.
And was the condition of the 30-foot extension of from the intersection of Second and Craft, was that was addressed?
I believe that was
Appropriate.
removed from
Okay.
the condition.
Yeah, what I saw in there was something about it not having to be addressed now, but it's still called out as if there is a problem at the later date.
That's correct.
Okay,
And that was acceptable to the applicant.
Okay.
He preferred that to dealing with it right now.
okay.
So similar to how the fence was addressed.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so preliminary and final plat requested by Ron's Property. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then the council to approve the letter of understanding. Is there any questions on that? Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resolution number 2019-21, resolution ordering the abatement or nuisance condition located at 304 3rd Street Southeast, Melrose, Minnesota. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution number 2019-22, resolution order the abatement and nuisance conditions located at 121 4th Street Southwest, Melrose, Minnesota. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resolution number 21-19-1, ordinance amending to section 700 sign regulation by repealing or replacing and/or amending the code related to the signage, official title, and summary. Do we have any questions, or?
Yeah, I know there's one particular business in town that's looking at an electronic sign. And does this allow them to do that,
Yes,
the way they're going to do it? Okay.
yes.
So I tried to read through it, and it's obviously a little,
The business in
Hard to
question
understand.
was requesting 2 wall signs per unit on my phone.
oh yeah.
They're requesting 2 wall signs, and this does allow that. One of the wall signs would have to have the 5-minute intervals, and the applicant, or the potential applicant is acceptable to that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good with that? You're making a motion to approve that?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Ordinance number 3-21. What? Sorry,
Yes,
I didn't see
there
it.
should be two, it's okay. There should be another, there should be 2 for both ordinances. There's going to be
Why?
a title and summary.
Keeping you
I'm not
honest.
keeping you, yeah, she is keeping me honest. Thank you, Pat. Council to give a consideration approving the official title and summary of ordinance number 3-21-2019-1. Ordinance title and summary. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay,
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Is that one good? Good enough? All right, okay.
This one will be the same. Resolution summary.
Okay, so we're on 7E. The council to give consideration adopting ordinance number 321-2019-2. Any questions or concerns on that?
Did we do that already?
No, this is for nonconformities now. Excuse me, nonconformities.
And we're on
The
E.
next ordinance is-
E. Oh, yep, okay.
See, I'm
There's
not the
two
only one,
almost
yeah, see?
identical. I'll move. So move.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then the second part of that, council give consideration approving the official title and summary ordinance number 3-21-2019-2, ordinance title and summary. Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Please reserve hire.
We are requesting approval to hire Reese Regal for the Melrose Police Reserve. Reese is a law enforcement student currently at Alexander Technical College and is also a member of the Army National Guard. Reese has been working security at the former and the current Genio Turkey plant as well. Our officers got to know him. They feel that he'd fit in real well with our department, as well as seems to be a decent person that we'd like to see succeed in law enforcement, so we'd like to give him a little bit of more opportunity over the rest of the population when it comes to jobs in the future, hopefully for him. This would be contingent upon a successful background and a physical exam. You would approve his hiring.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, Springstead Incorporated, did you want to?
Sure, yep. The city works with Springstead as our municipal advisor for arbitrage compliance, continuing disclosures, bonding. And they are going to be merging with, or they've been acquired by Baker, Tilly, Birchow, and Kraus. So we've just received consent, or an agreement to consent with the change in ownership.
Okay.
Does this, are we tied into contracts that we have annual fees and stuff on at this time?
We pay an annual fee for them to do the continuing disclosure.
Okay,
But
and none of
it's
that
just for the
stuff
work
changes
performed.
with this? Okay. Just want to make sure there's not some hidden
Mhm.
increases or something with it. so.
I agree with you.
Okay.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent of the assignment?
Move to approve.
Okay, can I get a second? Okay. First and a second, all in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carried. Old business, downtown parking restrictions.
Since our November meeting, letters did go out with a diagram explaining 3-hour daytime business district parking as well as the overnight seasonal parking from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Lisa helped put together a map that seemed to be conducive to help maybe explain some of those things better along with the portion of the ordinance. Things have improved. One area was still a struggle. Did issue a $10 parking ticket earlier in the week, and that has remedied the issue. So that party's not here tonight to discuss the citation or the parking issue, so I'm assuming that will be the end to that, but we'll still monitor the downtown parking area throughout the morning and afternoon hours to make sure that everybody's keeping their vehicles moving so that all the businesses have ample access for their patrons. We had some questions about Turkey Lane and First Street Northeast, but at this point, unless the ordinance is revised, we'll leave those open for regular parking except for during the seasonal event overnight.
Yeah, I spoke with the original person who had brought up the concern. Said if they weren't here, they're okay with leaving it the way it is, pretty much. Didn't have enough support to get a change made to the ordinance, but they would really like to see 3-hour parking signs on the side streets. If somehow we can make that happen, I don't know if there's a way to put a sign up somewhere on each of the streets, the side streets, because obviously if you're parking on side street and there's no sign there, you know, somebody from out of town's not going to know it. So that's the main concern. Everybody, you know, business owners know it.
Yeah. And I think once the seasonal signs come off on most of the avenues, it's just on the stop sign at the end of the block. So once those seasonal signs come down, I would assume that Gary has signs available, or we can get some more, whoever to post those. We'll post those again on the ways.
Right.
If we post both versions, we're probably going to be stacking pretty far down that post after.
We're probably breaking our new sign ordinance for
Could very well be.
coverage or square footage.
And they'd have to rotate every 5 minutes. I don't know, Gary's after whatever the ordinance said.
Right.
Could do flashing ones they can transition
That
back
might
and
work
forth,
better.
you know.
Another, as long as you're up there talking about parking, I'm sure a lot of people have noticed the 2nd Avenue cars with the snow and stuff have gotten pushed almost out into traffic. And I don't know if that's something we want to put on the agenda for next month, maybe to discuss or not, but I don't know how we can fix that.
Yeah,
but
there's
it
been
is
some
really
discussion about that, and you know, this snow year was different than normal, but the officers have overnight anyway, or the last couple of days, since the snow is now dissipating, the curb is visible again. One of the vehicles, as of today even, is still about 3 feet off the line. We're going to give that party until Saturday, and if by Saturday it's not moved, we're towing it. We've talked with them several times over the winter, trying to remedy the effort as best we can. Some discussion was had maybe that it follows the seasonal time frame, November 1 till April 1, that there's no parking overnight on 2nd Avenue Southeast or whatever. But we'd have to work with the county on that as well, since it is a county road. But just some of those ideas have been pushed around as well, but as far as at least the one vehicle that's out into the lane further than normal, that one's going to be addressed.
yeah.
Is there more than 4 vehicles there?
1, 2, well, there shouldn't be any more. 2 parties moved out of the residence, and one of the vehicles on the road is part of the issue. So that one should be going, whether by us or by them, by the weekend.
Okay.
Just a thought, but is that road, I don't ever remember there being stripes painted on that road. Will they get striped this year? I don't know.
I don't think.
You know, it might get a center line, but I don't know if it's ever gotten the white line on the right
I have never
side.
seen a white line on that.
County Road 2nd?
Yeah, coming into town from the interstate.
Yeah, I don't believe, I mean, that's something.
No, I don't believe it's ever been.
I don't think it's
That's a
ever been-
county thing, not us, right?
Is that something we could request the county to do? That way, if cars get parked, you know, inside the white line, it's automatic, then you know. But
Yeah, I think that would be a reasonable request to the county.
I'm open.
because then we wouldn't have to wait 4 days to get it moved. We could just move it, right?
Do you think you
Because
can
it's-
talk to them about it?
Yeah,
Or who
Gary and
should
I
talk
can work
about
with the
that?
county and see what the options are.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think there was a lot of close calls over there. Surprising there's no mirrors missing, so. I
Or
agree
doors
with-
missing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tony, that was pretty far out this year, so.
One of the other, I had the director at Arvik talk to me, because he saw the meeting the last month that we were talking about. And he really would like to see no parking on the backside of Arvik.
On Turkey Lane.
He's like, I don't know if we can do something just on our side. He goes, I guess they want to park on the other side, but a lot of them are coming into our building, but he's like, I can't police none of it. So he goes, we have trucks pulling in there delivering at least once a day, if not, twice. And they're parking in the middle of Turkey Lane, blocking everything because there's cars on both sides, so.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know
the
if
feed
that's
mill
something
had
that
some
we need to
concerns as
look at a
well
little
too.
bit closer if, he's like, I don't know if we start with 3-hour parking or, I mean, he wasn't opposed at all to just.
Yeah, and I'd have to, Gary, I don't know if you know the width of that road off the top of your head, but it could be limited to one side of the street parking. And like I said, the feed mill had some issues too with, when the grain trucks are coming and going there. Their feed trucks aren't as bad, but the grain trucks trying to make that turn in there as well. And we just asked some people to move their vehicles back so the trailer didn't catch them as they were making their turns as well, as well for their vehicle, but also to help out the truck drivers. So, maybe that's something for the council to explore, is restricted to one side of the street, or could be restricted altogether on Turkey Lane. Those are.
If you put a time limit on it, would it just help keep the all-day ones moving then, maybe?
I don't think it will, because I still see a lot of our employees that park on the 3-hour and they just go out every 3 hours and move it, so. But I know our inventory is not too happy when they park on their backside, because trucks sit in the middle of the road, and then it seems like she's a time crunch to try to get the truck unloaded.
Would they move it every 1 hour?
Yeah.
I don't want to lose any more parking than we have. I mean, that's the tough part. One side, maybe, chastising people that are abusing it, maybe. I don't know. What are you guys
I don't know,
thinking?
He just said, he goes, any business in town can use the Arbor parking lot. I know it's a longer walk, but he's like, even if we all parked over there, it would only be half full. And
That's what I was kind of curious about is,
they have no problem, he has no problem. He said
With
he's.
anybody using the parking lot
Right,
there.
he talked to them in the credit union before they built their parking lot and said, you guys can use our parking lot, and they felt just to go build their own. But, I mean, we could have that discussion a little bit closer with Arvik and even with Rothwork and see what they want to decide.
Yeah,
I mean, that street is narrow there. I think I don't know, does it widen a little bit wider as it goes down, or does it stay about the same width? I guess you don't really have buildings and.
Well, on the right side, you don't have no curb
You don't
because
have any
it
curb there, so you can't park.
looks wider.
There anyway, but, I don't know, he just mentioned it to me and asked if there was something we could do. I said, well, I'll bring it up, and
Travis and Tony, do you have an opinion, or?
not at this time, I guess, anytime you make a change to an ordinance or look into it, that law of unintended consequences comes to bite you. There's probably other people that, we'll never think of that use it for different reasons and open another can of worms, kind of like the side street parking ordinance. If you change it based on a couple people's feelings, then you're gonna probably create some other issues, so. I don't know that a change is needed now, but maybe get the word out that anybody can use Arvik's parking lot, maybe that would help.
no.
Because it's not really like we can say, if a business has assigned parking, use the parking lot. I don't know what you can do about something like that. And then if you're parking there, you can give them a ticket. I don't know. That's a real
Is there something that we
far-fetched.
can send out? I know they just sent out a parking deal to all the Arvik employees, but is there something that we can send out that we could give to them saying, if you guys keep parking there, if you're an employee here and you keep parking on there, there might be a consequence that we
Copy
might
of a
change.
ticket with the fee notated. No.
I mean, just some way to get them to go over there. I mean, that doesn't stop anybody else from parking there all day, but
I think.
It's been better though, hasn't it?
I
Since
think
you bought that?
the back side of that gets a lot
Yeah.
of attention from our
Right.
upstairs tenants, and he has no way to police it. He goes, I can't
Right.
go out and give tickets. He's like, so that's why he was thinking possibly 3-hour parking.
Right, and I know that, I know that Mark has numerous times talked with, like you said, our big employees as well, the tenants upstairs as far as take advantage of the parking lot, please use the parking lot.
Yep.
I mean, and he's done everything he can to try and make it as best it can be in the area of that building, but, that's probably the start to it. The only thing, at least from the police department standpoint, that we could say for sure that would make the adjustment is if there's restricted parking or whatever else, and that is the concern, not only for the business owners, but the police department as well, is where do people park after a while? You may or may not be running out of spaces here and there sooner rather than later, but,
Is that, if he's okay with anybody parking in that parking lot, is that something that can be put in the paper? Because maybe that would
That's what he
help
told.
the gentleman on.
He's told them several times, you know, and I don't know if it maybe we could work through the chamber as well, just to say, any downtown business.
Right.
I know the focus has been with the, like you said, the tenants and
And then put
employees
it on our
over
Facebook
there, but
page
maybe it's
too.
just a matter of putting a blast out to anybody, and with the weather changing, obviously that'll be a benefit, but it'll be the next fall, winter when we see that change again.
Because he even said, you know, this winter, obviously, we got a lot of snow, so now we're talking about this happening on Second Avenue. But it was bad enough that it was like one lane, because people were parking on both sides.
Okay. All right. So we can't vote on nothing on that, so let's move on. 8B, on March 13, 2 bids were received for the HVAC system for the Melrose City Center. SEH has reviewed the bids and is recommending the project awarded to Mission Mechanical. Discussion? The Public Utilities Commission voted for it. Roger, do you want to explain a little bit about it?
I guess, yeah, I mean, SEH sent a letter out for recommendation. That does, just so you guys are aware, that does include changing out the heating coils and units. Would have some issues with the water leaking, well, maybe that'll solve some of it. But, so they are recommending that with the add-on of the changing of the heating coils.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with Mission Mechanical.
I do too.
Personally, so.
Yeah. Is there any questions or concerns? Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 2019 street improvement projects.
Take one, pass it down, and set that, please. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, bids were open for the 2019 street improvements this morning at 10 a.m. We had 6 bidders. The low bidder was Riley Brothers from Morris, Minnesota, in the amount of $287,074.60. The engineer's estimate was $308,455. Gary did check. Riley's has worked in town 2 or 3 times over the past 10 years, and he said they did decent work. So it's our recommendation that we award the 2019 street improvement project to Riley Brothers of Morris in the amount of $287,074.60. Are there any questions?
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Looks fine.
Okay.
You're fine with that, Gary?
Good with it? Any motion to avoid the contract?
So move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then 2019 chip seal projects.
Mr. Mayor, members, chip seals were open this morning at 9:30. We received 2 bids. Aztec was the low bidder in the amount of $69,195.85. Our engineer's estimate was $79,080.75. We did spec out an FA3 aggregate, which is a little bit larger rock. I think one of the things that probably need to consider is we didn't probably, based on the condition of the roadway, we probably didn't advertise for enough oil. They're kind of looked at it once the snow came off, and we had spec'd 0.27 gallons per square yard, and they think it probably should be about a 0.36, which would increase the project cost of about $12,000. The alternative is to go back to the smaller rock that we typically use, an FA2 aggregate, and that would actually lower the price by about $2,000. So I think we're going to recommend that we award to Aztec with the change of deleting the FA3 aggregate and going back to the FA2 aggregate. I think Gary and I had talked, and the streets are a little bit older, probably past where you normally might chip seal. We thought that the larger aggregate would fill some of the voids a little bit better. The downside is that in a residential area where you have kids riding bikes, rollerblading, skateboarding, if you fall on that FA3 aggregate, you lose about a pound of flesh. So in a residential neighborhood, I think the FA2 is probably maybe more appropriate. So it's our recommendation to award with the FA2 with the reduced price.
Okay. Questions or concerns? Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Okay, there's first. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Rock Arch Dam, Rapids.
Well, Tessa, do you want me to, and then you can chime in, I guess, or do you want to lead off? Or?
Sure. I sent an update out, but when was that? A couple weeks ago. Patty, myself, and Lisa, Mike went down to the LCCMR hearing and presented our two-phased approach, which we wanted to do to try to do the downstream river realignment. And at that point, they decided to continue on with how the bill was written. So after that, we met with Lisa, myself, Mike,
Todd Hummer, Luke
It was a
Lundy,
full room.
and
DNR, Senator Westrom. I'm probably missing others.
yeah, and from that meeting, and I want to thank Senator Westrom for both meetings. I mean, he did a great job advocating for the city. The LCCMR board was not in favor of the two-phase approach because we couldn't guarantee at any time in the near future that the council would move to lower the lake level. So they didn't feel that there was enough environmental benefit to approve phase one without any certainty that phase two would ever happen. So through the meeting with the DNR, we kind of got them to agree that there's a possibility that the Rock Arch Rapids could work with the full pool height, keeping the lake level at its current elevation. The problem with that is that they're going to require more hydraulic analysis, probably a 3D model instead of a 2D model. However, and I did kind of talk it through with our project engineer and our hydrologist, and the number's not insignificant, and I don't really want to share that yet. But the way the LCCMR bill is written is that with the current work plan, which is creating the Rock Arch Rapids with the full pool elevation, that some of this additional final design money would be eligible for the grant. The other thing that was positive in our favor was that if at some point through the process, we determined that additional funds are necessary. They did leave it open to applying for additional funds. So the way it sits right now is we are authorized to use the money up until, is it June of 2022, I believe?
Yes.
So I guess, long story short, my recommendation is not necessarily to move forward with any authorization, but probably to hold a workshop, maybe first with our project engineer and hydrologist to kind of go through the next steps, what we think we can get it approved. The real question is how much is it going to cost, once the DNR signs off on it. So I guess my recommendation is to maybe schedule a workshop with the council and our staff, that if the council is comfortable moving into further discussions with the DNR, move in that direction, and then finally, if the council is comfortable, maybe looking at authorizing some additional hydraulics works that would be eligible for reimbursement by the grant fund. So, and that probably, I think that would not happen until July. So we do have some additional time to discuss the Rock Arch Rapids and/or some alternative minor modification. So.
I don't know if this is out of your league. Question for you. When fields get tiled, who approves permits for like fields?
I think it's SWCD, Soil and Water, I believe. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I believe it is.
But they'd still have to go to the DNR with it too, right?
It depends where they discharge to. If they discharge to a judicial ditch, it's a county authorization. If it dumps directly to a navigable stream, then it would be Corps of Engineers and DNR. I mean, if it's directly to the Sauk River, then it would be, I think, the Corps and DNR. But if it's to a judicial county ditch, then I think the county would approve that.
Good enough, thank you.
Right now, obviously, we still have the bridge on the back burner. This is kind of integral to this whole discussion. But we have, soon we're going to need to know how to lay out this bridge, right? And it depends on the Rock Arch Rapids, whether it's a go or not.
Correct.
If we keep discussing this ad nauseum, whether or not, to do this Rock Arch Rapids, or to pursue some other option, we're going to fall behind the 8 ball with this bridge again. And, to me, it's, there's a lot of wording in here that's kind of open-ended. DNR continues to believe that there are currently sufficient funds to complete the work necessary. Well, believes there is currently sufficient funds yet. Well, that's kind of not real reassuring. So, are we at the point where we just say, what, let's just do the bridge, forget about all the river stuff, and get the bridge project done? Quit talking about it, because, we could be pulled in all kinds of different directions again and throw another 50 grand at it and still back at square one. So, do we just do the bridge, be done with it, and worry about the dam 10 years from now, 15, 20, 40 years from now? I don't know,
Yeah, that's, if we do have another discussion, I certainly would, ask that Jody Tyke be involved so that, she could comment on, the bridge funding and, another 6 months of delay, is that going to, jeopardize any funding? Currently, the bridge is not in the current bridge bonding cycle. Depending on how much the governor gets authorized again, that'll, depend on, or determine when that bridge could actually be built. So, but no, I do agree. I told our guys I don't want to spend another nickel unless we have a fairly certain positive outcome.
Right. And it was fairly positive when it was brought to our attention that we should look at this, that it was going to get supported, full height and everything. And do we know how that went? So.
I do.
When, we're told, yeah, you can do the full height. Well, yeah, okay, which one is it? Can we or can't we? And so, I think it's honestly time just to move on, so.
Okay.
Because we can still do the bridge and move it exactly how we had it
Right.
planned.
Yeah, I mean, we can still do the channel realignment, which would be down to about midway of the park. Our phase one had some downstream improvements, some fish enhancement, but, if there's going to be no grant money, that's certainly not a requirement. The Nikki Blake Bradley, the DNR hydrologist, said, well, I might not just allow just straight riprap. I may want some, in that part we do realign, but those costs I don't think will be much more significant than just riprap, and
Right.
would provide some nice features, for the community, so. Yeah, that's the council's wish. I mean, we certainly can move ahead with that.
I don't know that we need a motion or anything, but just consensus not to entertain that at this point.
So you want to have that meeting though,
I don't,
or not?
I don't think so. I mean, it's gonna lead to more discussion and more meetings for our staff to be involved in, and it's more time, more.
So that
We're
would be
probably-
then
what's that?
walking away from that LCCMR funding as well as the Lizard Sam's grant.
At this point, I think, yeah, because they gave us, we didn't need to apply for it officially until, what was it, end of March? End of April, something to that effect. We can always reapply at a later date, but if we apply and we want to use that for the phase two being dam removal, it has to be used by 2022, if I read that correctly.
Yeah.
And so that's basically committing to removing the dam by 2022.
Yeah, one of the
That's 3
comments
years.
from Senator Westrom was that it's easier to ask for more money than to start all over. I mean, he thought that if we went back in the future with the full amount, starting from square one, it would be potentially unlikely that we would get funded, but
So what do you think we should do?
I can't answer that. I hate to give up the potential 3 whatever million it was, but on the other hand, I don't want to spend another $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in design that, might not get us anywhere. Even if it is reimbursable by the grant funding, it still is taxpayer money, so.
Yeah, and just don't forget, we went around this whole thing for a year saying that we leave it at full height. And it was suddenly said, rejected and said, no, we need it to drop 7 feet, basically removing the dam, draining the reservoir. So we can do this all over again, try and get the engineering correct so that we can maintain the full height, but there's no guarantee it's gonna be accepted. And the money has to be used by 2022, if I read that correctly. So,
Correct.
so if we don't have this thing done by 2022, and we go forward with the project, then we're gonna have to go legislature to get an extension, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the work plan was approved, the plans were approved, and the construction, wasn't done, I think an extension would be readily available. It's getting that work plan and approved, permitted type thing by certainly close to 2022 would be the necessary outcome.
But if the bridge isn't funded at that time, we can't start the Rock Arch Rapids if the bridge isn't done.
Right. And certainly in that case, I think the legislature would be very flexible in extending that LCCMR money to coincide with the bridge. And I think
it's a really big, it's a very long shot from here yet to make this reservoir stay with the Rock Arch Rapids, just the way it's being talked about in there. And I think we determined that was the only thing that we were going to accept, right? Because that's how the conversation started,
Mhm.
reservoir stays. So,
So is there any more talk with the DNR? I mean, you guys sounded like you talked with them and did they make it sound like, well, maybe like we have more research?
Well, there were some
I mean, like-
significant issues, because the tailwater of the river does not come up to the lake level during flooding. You've got the 100-year storm that runs down the rapids. So the velocity is their concern that, and I don't recall what other rock arch rapids it was, but it was a similar situation where the boulders did tumble down and they kept having to pick them up and bring them up to the top. So, you know, and I think we could, you know, design around that. I mean, you just get a bigger boulder. I mean, one of the senators made a comment that, you know, we're in granite country here, we can make them as big as we want. But again, it all goes towards final end cost. And, you know, I think we were, at our latest estimate, I think we were about $500,000 short. You know, and that could turn into $1 million or, you know, or more, I guess. So.
And that was what Senator Westrom thought. We could always come back and ask
for
for
a bigger
additional
ask.
funding
Yeah.
to cover that deficit. When we were at the hearing, I think a lot of the senators and representatives on that board were supportive of the fact that the city did not want to lower the reservoir.
Yeah, that's kind of the,
Yeah, I
So
would
that's
agree.
how
Just
we
like-
had-
or the-
I feel like we had support there, it's just the permitting.
yeah.
And Senator Western was willing to, you know, go to bat for the city regarding the DNR, to try and work this out if the city wants to. It's just whether the city wants to.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've already talked about is, you know, we were having the bypass piping to construct the rock arch rapids, which was twin 48-inch pipes. We thought, well, why don't we just leave those in place and take off some of that 100-year or 50-year flood elevation and bypass it? We looked at that. We can knock down about 10% of the 100-year flow, which is some. But it would only be about 600 CFS out of the 6,000 CFS. So I don't know if that would get us to where we need to be velocity-wise. Some of the other things that we looked at was, well, maybe we, you know, to the north of the bridge, maybe we have a box culvert that during the big year storm, some of that flows through. So, I mean, I think there are some alternatives that could make it work. I just, at this point, I cannot guarantee that, you know, what the cost of that would be, so.
Okay, Tony, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I think the bridge is still number one. You know, if we get funding for the bridge and this is still, I don't want to spend any more money on, I wouldn't like to see us spend any more money on entertaining Rock Arch Rapids unless, I hate to throw it back in the court, unless there's a firm commitment that we spend another $50,000 in engineering this thing and it will get approved. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and I would propose that we don't do anything until we're eligible to use the grant funding to move forward. I mean, typically, you know, Todd Hummer says, well, usually these LCMR projects don't have permits at this point. You know, usually that's part of the process of utilizing the grant fund. So if there was some desire to move forward, I think we could have a couple of meetings between now and July. Then if we had a good feeling about moving forward in July, then we could utilize the grant funding to do more design and permitting.
Okay.
You good with that, Tony?
Sounds good. As long as it's not too burdensome for staff, number one. And we don't spend, no, we're spending the grant money on the engineering on the back end or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess up until that point, the only thing I would foresee would be a meeting maybe with the council workshop, some ideas put together to see what might, you know, be, you like a bypass through the park. If the park flooded a little more frequently than it does today, would that be okay? Those types of things. If we had probably 8 hours invested in that, and then if we move forward on that, maybe another 8 hours with the DNR.
Would, not that this is a complete design question, but on the east side of the bridge, right now, the bridge design has it just going underneath and basically river channel. Putting a larger pond in there to hold water on the east side of the bridge, like a fishing hole. Is that?
I think environmentally that would be really good for the fish. Well, I don't know that it would help with the Rock Arch Rapids.
It would help with the velocity, though, the water velocity, wouldn't it?
During the smaller storms, but during the big ones, your hydraulic grade line is still going to shoot down the Rock Arch Rapids and pretty much bypass that pond because your levels will be up.
Right.
So
Okay.
it won't really know that it's 20 feet deep versus 5 feet.
It's full.
Yeah.
When it's full, it's full. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think moving that back, like I know we had our tiers and I don't remember what it was, 14?
Yeah.
So 14 tiers or something. Do you think like moving it back and making them tiers
Yeah,
less
certainly
or something, like adding?
The further we stretch it up into the lake, it's going to
I mean, there
lower.
isn't much up here, so I mean, if you're stretched up here, what's another 20 feet? I mean, you're back.
Yeah,
About
I
$1
mean,
million
and I
bucks.
don't know, it
It's a lot of
probably
fill
would
for
have to be
people.
another 100 feet to have any positive effect, but yes, that's a possibility. But again, when we went from the 810 step to the 610 step, that added up or another half a dozen steps, and the cost again increases. But yes, that would be one way to slow those velocities down.
I just don't want to throw this to the wayside because, I mean, I don't want to lose the lake level, but come July, we all know what it looks like. And you know what I mean? So I don't want, it would be nice if we could get the sediment going down and if that'll help and I don't know.
And I believe that was some of their concern with leaving it at the 7 feet, correct? Was the sediment not,
Leaving it at full depth?
or at the full depth, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their thoughts are that, well, within 10 or 15 years, it's going to fill in, and you're going to have cattails.
Actually, if you go on Stearns County's website, they have an overlay on their GIS system. You can do it from 1965. And I swear, there's no more filled in today than there was back then, the way it looks on that map. There was actually, it almost looked like there was more filled in on the west end in 1965 than there was today. That's kind of the way it looks. So anyway, I'm just saying, I don't think any of these off-the-cuff comments about it filling in 10 years, 15 years, I don't think there's any validity to it, honestly.
Well, yeah, from 65 until today, I mean, you may have not have lost surface area, you probably did lose some volume or depth.
Maybe a little depth.
Depth
yeah.
of water.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
So, if I'm hearing correctly, you would maybe like to go forward with a workshop?
I guess that doesn't hurt.
The only thing with the workshop that you probably would want to do is just with the time they have invested, like Tessa's and Mike and all the, you know what I mean? If you throw it out like you were initially saying, which I think everybody agrees, we've had enough circling back on this, but
Yeah.
maybe do the workshop and then decide quickly to either
Yep.
move forward or scratch it.
At least we're doing our due diligence for the citizens.
Yeah. And if we're not spending a lot of money, that's the kicker. I don't mind putting a little more time into it, but if it gets to be where now we're getting pushed on to, oh, you gotta lower it, now you gotta lower it 3 feet, now you know what, now it's just that bait and switch thing again, that if we're being told, yeah, there's a way to engineer this, potentially to do the full Rock Arch Rapids like it was from day one, then it might be worth entertaining it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like we got time on the bridge, so.
Is there a night of the week that's best for the council? Or late afternoon. I mean, I don't know if we need to wait till 6 or if everybody could be here at 5 or,
How soon, when do you want to have the meeting? Like-
I would, in the next
May?
2 to 3 weeks.
Oh. Thursdays work pretty good for me. Mondays or Thursdays work pretty good.
April's pretty booked though, just so that you have one already on the 9th, you have one on the 11th, you have one on the 18th.
Can we just do it after one of them?
If that
Because
would,
I think a couple of them,
that would.
they're gonna be short anyway.
Well, the 11th one, because that's our regular council plus the local board of appeals. The 18th is just for the city administrator's search. The 8th, that's Thursday. The 18th at 5:30. The 8th is the craft lot potential, depending on how many developers want to present. So,
Is Mike here for that craft lot? You come to any of these April meetings?
Not that I know of. You know, and I would have to get, you know, a couple people
Well,
out of
why don't we just sort of see what schedules work out and send something out to us, and then we can all,
Send a couple of dates out that work for you and.
Okay,
we'll see
yeah, I mean,
from our side. That's all.
I have no idea how long this will take, and I want, you know, to be able to have your full attention and you know, not have you be tired after a long 2-hour meeting already.
Yeah.
So I'll get some times and I'll shoot them out and I'll coordinate with Tessa and Patty and we'll
okay.
see what works.
Yep. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, new business, local board of appeals. Yeah, I just see that Justin and I are the only ones that are certified. I know when I started on the council, all of us had to be certified. I would like to see us all just go through that training. You, Bunker,
Been through it.
Tony. Huh?
Been through it twice.
No, you're not on there anymore.
I'm not certified anymore.
Yeah, you need
I think it
to
lasts
be
4 years.
certified.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to. Only
Well,
one needs to be certified.
Yeah, but if Justin and I are the only ones certified, what happens if we have a big line cut on that day next month?
Just gotta
I'm just
reschedule, I
saying.
guess.
So I think it was required of us when I got on the council that we had to do that.
And now, and right now you can't, I mean, when the county sends that out again, I can, like Travis, you couldn't even take it right now. The only way you could is if we didn't have one, but I think, when did I send you that email? Is it
They're usually
July?
like
I
July.
was gonna say, I think it's beginning in July again. Then
Yeah.
you'll have until February 1st of 2020, but you'll have, it's a webinar.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. They don't have the classes
Just go on.
I've
anymore.
only got a year left.
Come on. You don't only have a year left. But yeah, if we can send out and.
I will,
for
when I
here.
get it, I can
Yeah.
send it to everybody and then.
Come on. All right, so let's make that happen. Make sure Mr. Bunker Hill knows about that too.
Well, yeah, maybe for the new council members, definitely it'll be a good experience. But you know,
I'll
you've been
do
through
it
it a couple
as well.
times. As long as there's somebody, you only required to have one person certified.
I know, but, you know, just in case.
Yeah.
Just, it don't hurt. It wasn't too bad of a class. You go to enough webinars.
Yeah.
So enough said. All right, information items, utility commission meeting minutes, schools and conferences. Is there anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn then?
So
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.